Yo, 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 what's going on, guys? It's your boy Player X here with the Semi-Limited Podcast for another weekly installment of the best TCG podcast this side of the globe has ever produced. We just want to give a quick thank you to all of our listeners and supporters, everyone who's been tuning into the podcast, sharing all the pages, following all the social sites, interacting with us and whatnot. It means a tremendous amount to all of us here at the podcast for, putting on and trying to give you guys some good content as well as help improve some of the gameplay and quality of content out there for you guys. So thank you for showing love to us, and in return we will be showing love to you guys. So as usual, you can be sure to click that Linktree link down below in that description box. You can click on that and follow all of our social sites, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, or X, or whatever it is now, TikTok. We have YouTube now, all that stuff. You make sure you go down there, click on all those links and follow, subscribe, hit those notification bells so you stay up to date every time we drop. And as well as when we reach 50 followers on X, which is about 3 followers away, and 50 followers on TikTok, which is about, I think, like 20 followers or so, we'll be doing more giveaways, as well as 100 followers on Instagram, which we have 88, so another 12 more there. We'll be doing more giveaways for you guys, whether it be some play sets of cards, maybe some high rarity staples or something like that. We have like merchandise, we can give accessories, mats, sleeves, whatever the hell you guys want, deck boxes. You guys ask for it and let us know in our Discord server, also in that Linktree link, and we will get it to you guys because we just want to show back all the love that you guys have been showing to us. And speaking of love, showing quick love to our sponsor, Unplugged Gaming, out in Manlius, New York. You can be sure to check out their Discord server, also in the description box below. I made sure to include it down there. You can click on that, hit join, and join their server, and you can be a part of all of the TCGs that they have available in their store. So Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, Magic the Gathering, Lorcana, whatever it is that your TCG is, I guarantee you that they have a little community down there in their tabs for you. So go down there, interact with the page, and if you go to the store, be sure to tell them that the boys over at Semi-Limited sent you for a little surprise. Also, the last little mention we have going on is that Brad, our Twitch affiliate, will be streaming as he usually does on Saturdays at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's 11 p.m. over on the East Coast of the United States. Anywhere else, you'll just have to check your time zone to find out when it will be streaming. The link is also in the Linktree link down below. And Brad streams usually every Saturday, doing things like deck profiles, interacting with his stream, sometimes play testing, or like, for example, for the Rochester Regional, for the last 2 weeks, he was streaming and doing deck profiles, challenging random people to come through. They were doing deck building sessions or whatnot. So it's very, very interesting over there. And everything that happens on stream, he also talks to me about. We try to mention in the podcast. So if you're not doing anything on Saturday nights, be sure to go check out his stream once again at 11 p.m. on Saturdays. And if you catch it over there and happen to get his attention, he might bring it to my attention and you might get mentioned over here on the podcast. So be sure to check those things out. Before we get into today's episode, though, I just want to introduce 2 very special guests that we have with us today. One of them is a returning guest, and a second one is a first-time guest here on the podcast, but they are both from the same group and the same clique in the same town down there in New York City. So please give a big warm welcome to our brother podcast, Heart of the Podcast, and their hosts, Mel and Nick.
Yo.
Oh, what's up? What's going on?
It's good.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Thanks for having us on. X and I go way back together, so he's a good friend of mine, and we were up in Rochester, Syracuse this weekend for the regional, so we're very excited about that. That was very fun.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a great trip. Had a really nice time.
Did you guys have any plugins or shout-outs that you guys want to get into before we dive on into the episode?
The main one is shouting out our How to the Podcast are on all streaming platforms. We've been trying to get back into the groove of things with recording episodes, but life has happened, so it's been a little bit, but we plan on recording more consistently in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, once the summer ends, it'll be better.
Yeah, and a big shout out to you for having us on.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. For most people who don't know, actually, Heart of the Podcast and Mel and his clique are actually the reason I even got into TCG podcasting to begin with. He had told me about it. He showed me a couple episodes. I followed the channel. I was really, really into it, like having fun listening to all of my friends give their opinions and their takes and to see what the community thought about it. And then, like, not only that, but like just the ability to like talk with your friends about something you guys actually enjoy and actually create a platform out of it just seemed very, very enticing to me. So like, if anyone ever wants to point the finger, it's definitely the heart of the podcast that got Semi-Limited podcast even off the ground. So
Hell
congrats
yeah.
to you guys, and much thanks for you guys for helping out the little guys out there. Let's just say.
Of course, we appreciate the shout out, and you put up some high quality stuff, so we really enjoy being on.
My shout out is to Arisart because he did nothing wrong.
Oh my God, here
Yeah,
we
that's
go.
right.
We're already
Shout out that man.
starting.
Shout out to Rise Hard
Jesus
Dog.
Christ.
Shout out to
Just out
Arisart.
here banishing cards face down. No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. Just a walking macrocosmos with 3,000 attack and defense. Yeah, no problem at all.
Everyone's a hater.
So now that we are all settled up and squared away, we can actually get into today's episode, and just a couple topics for today. Nothing too crazy, but we wanted to talk about the regional that happened over at Millennium Games in Rochester, New York over the weekend. For those who are unaware, it was August 26th. It was a Saturday. We had drove all out there. All the Cuse boys had decided to take a big old competitive trip out to Rochester to the Millennium Games new store, the new venue, and it was, let's just go start to finish from the day. I think it was still a great event. I scrubbed, but start to finish, it was a great day. We got there a little late. The venue itself was glorious. It was a really nice venue. Those who have been to the old Millennium Games knows that that store is actually pretty big, but they actually got bigger and way more sleek, way more new age. It was insane going there. From the regional room to the board game room to the actual floor, the sales floor being like tremendously big, and then all the display cases had like rotating display cases. It was really cool to see like all the high tech stuff in there. So it was like next gen to me.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, that place was dope. I was very impressed because there's not a lot of especially in New York, there's been a lack of regionals, particularly in like areas by us. Since everybody got back, and it's just been really interesting. It was super fascinating to see like a big store like that appearing in New York and being able to go there. The owner was just like super cool and super like, he clearly very knowledgeable, knows what he's doing, and has clearly run those things before, because start to finish it was extremely well organized. He did something that I wasn't expecting, where deck lists weren't turned until after round 1, which I think helped us get started faster, because after that they might have had some issues going like later on. But just like the little logistical things, really well done with pre-registration, like saved a lot of time and space for us to have to deal with that. And it also was such a big space that we were able to, it didn't feel like we were crowded, because that's sometimes how it feels at regionals, particularly in places that are not convention centers. It was just like you tend to feel very crowded. But this one was like, you didn't have to just go outside. You could walk around his store, find a bunch of cool shit, go like see all, especially as I'm a big board game fan, and just like seeing the selection was so cool. And those rotating boxes with the cards, where I was like, this thing is incredible. This is so cool. This is somebody who is clearly dedicated to their craft and knows what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was I can't agree more. It was a really nice venue, very well organized. Honestly, probably my favorite venue that I've ever been to for Yu-Gi-Oh.
Ooh, really? Even over a card shop like Gamer's Choice?
For sure, 100%. The big thing for me is when I go to a card shop is that it's got to be clean, it's got to be big enough, it's got to have space, and it's got to be like the physical space needs to be well organized. And I think Millennium Games really excelled at that. Like, it was nice. It was really nice. Even the bathroom was really nice.
Yeah, and it's funny because even in the old shop, I mean, when they used to throw like OTS championships and whatnot, you could probably get like 40, 50 people in their game room, and like, not to say that it's like shoulder to shoulder, but when you're sitting down, you can kind of like feel that there's about 40 or 50 people in there. For those who don't know, the regional last weekend was 210 people, if I'm not mistaken. So it means 8 rounds of Swiss, with the top 8 getting the prize support, and then the top 32 getting invites. But even for having 210 people, that room could have easily fit another 150 in there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have even noticed.
They had extra space, dude.
Yeah, they had so much space. They had enough for another tournament.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, if you've ever been to like smaller regionals or even big regionals in small spaces, just being able to like lay your stuff out comfortably and not feel like you're on top of people was something that you sometimes take for granted, especially at like when you're at convention centers and stuff. But a local game shop that can do it and can pull it off well, again, he just kudos to I think the owner's name is Matt. Kudos to him for like really being very focused and doing the work to get that set up. Because his is the first regional in New York in a very long time, and I really appreciated like not having to go to another state.
Yeah, 100%. Big shout outs to him. So for those who don't know who are listening, Mel and the Heart of the Podcast crew actually came up from New York City. They came from the lower New York City area up to Upstate and hung out in Syracuse with me for the weekend. We eventually drove out to Rochester for that regional, and all 5 of them were able to compete along with the like 20 or so Q's people. And speaking of the Q's people that went out, we had a whole bunch of people who converted into Top Cut. Like a very high handful. And not only that, but we actually had a bunch of people who you normally wouldn't think would be competitive in our Q's local scene also make top 50. So although they didn't get their invites, they still got X3 for the day. And we're just like 1 game away from getting their invite and or doing very, very well to place for themselves. So for those who didn't know, just to let everyone know, like I said, we did 8 rounds of Swiss. There was 210 people. And from Syracuse, we have all the placements as follows. So we have Albert Park, who placed 2nd place, following the Castilla player who got 1st from Buffalo. So shout out to him as well. Albert Park got 2nd. Then we have our own Ryan App, who got 9th place. He actually had to play Albert in the very last round, so round 8. Albert just unfortunately beat him and knocked him just out of 8th place, so he missed his mat. But Ryan App's a hell of a player, so congrats to him for 9th. Josh Rock, our brand ambassador here at the podcast, was taking names on Saturday. He eventually got 14th place, losing twice the last 2 rounds, which is what dropped him so much. But he was on his way to get top 8 if he didn't drop his last game. Matt Pelletier, another great player from the Cuse area, who got top 32 in YCS Philly, as well as day 2 on Nationals. So he got 18th place. Our very own Brendan Agnant, who is basically just the biggest shit talker here in Syracuse, placed 20th. So he actually, put his money where his mouth was. And even players like Daryl Rupert, who most people won't remember that name on our local scene, but like players like Daryl placed 25th out of 32 and got his invite. And it was really, really crazy to say that, because Daryl was one of those players who's put in work for like the very, very beginning. Like he was never really like a very named player. He kind of came to locals, played around a little bit, played some fun decks, and then he would leave. But eventually, over the last couple months, started getting a little bit more serious, started coming a little bit more frequently to locals. His deck choices were changing into the bettering of like more combo oriented decks. To like even down to his practice schedule. He said he used to only play like at locals, and then now he goes home and plays. He plays online. He's actually been play testing and whatnot, and the man's put in the work. I got to give props where the props are due. The man went from barely even getting top cut out of locals to making top cut at his very first regional. So kudos to him. As well as some of the notable mentions from Syracuse, we have Brian McMahon, aka Redshirt, and Brad Stevens, as along with Billy Cronk, who all got top 50. So went X3 for the day, or I think in Brad's case, he went X2-2. So he had 2 draws. That's what knocked him out. But yeah, bro, a bunch of names from people who normally wouldn't be doing well. And the conversions going into that last round was just so crazy to see how everyone was still in it, still saying, yeah, I'm X2, I'm X1. Even Albert saying, I'm XO. And you know what I'm saying? It's insane to see how strong our Syracuse community has really become from the beginning of the year till now.
Yeah.
But what about you guys in New York City? How did you guys wind up faring and whatnot?
Yeah, so I think for us, I think all of the best record we had was X3. We ended up dropping out just because we didn't really have a chance at that point. But for us, our focus was a lot on, we had 2 particular shout outs, and I'll give to 2 of our players. I'll shout out George, our friend George, who is also on Heart of the Podcast.
Shout out George.
He was doing the best of us by far. He was 3-1 X1 at one point after round 4, so he was feeling very confident for somebody who he was debating between 3 decks going into the tournament, and he decided on Math Mech, and he's been playing that deck for a long time and really learning the ins and outs. And when we play him locally, he's like getting to a point now where you hand trap him 3 times and he's like, okay, I have the OTK line. Like he just knows that he has it. And we'll always say like, we want you to play it out. And every time he does it, he plays it. Like, it's really cool to see someone who for so long was a Mystic Mine Exodia player or somebody who, or an Eldritch player who was very much on the floodgates, decide like focus on a combo deck and really get good with it. And I'm glad he made the choice to go with Mathmech over Salamangreat and Flu, because he's just been played. The other deck was Fluundries, just because he's had way more practice with Mathmech locally. Anything you want to say about George, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, he did really, really well. He's Mathmech is interesting because he knows the lines in and out, like you said, and you know, at the end of the day, you can't. Sometimes you can't stop the battle phase. It's gonna happen, and then if you punch someone for 8,000 and they can't stop it, then that's it. So I mean, yeah, he did really like. I mean, that's it, right? So he did really, really well. Mathmech is a strong deck, and he's learned a lot of techs that go with Mathmech. It's interesting because he used to really hate combo a lot, and I mean, Mathmech is like a mid-range combo deck, but yeah, I mean, I think it's at the end of the day, that's just kind of like more powerful than floodgating your opponent. So even I actually also just want to say, having watched him play, it doesn't even always go for like the double punch access code line anymore.
Right.
It seems like a lot of the time it just ends on like the big body, and then he has learned how to prevent dying,
protect the
right?
castle.
To just
Protect the
access
castle.
code. So I mean, yeah, he did a really great job.
Yeah, I think that he by far did the best of us. Joseph also did pretty well. He was on Vanquish Souls. I think he was a lot of people's first Vanquish Souls player, just because it's not, we didn't see it, we haven't seen it a lot in our local area, and he said like sometimes the deck just, for him it's a lot more about learning the meta and learning what to go against, and he played very well. But I did want to give a big shout out to our buddy Kevin. So for those who don't know, Kevin has been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for like 6 months total. And he started with Dark World, so an extremely complicated combo deck, but he focused on his big thing, and Expert and I were talking about this a little bit. His big thing was, he was like, I have to keep skill drain in the main. It's my, like, I have to get to that card. I have to see that card or I can't win.
He's very insistent too.
Very insistent in the beginning. Like, you know, I'm gonna do Dark World stuff, and I'm not gonna hand loop you because I don't know how to do it. I'm gonna end on Hope Harbinger and Skill Drain, and I'll stop your one spell and then hope you can't do anything. And now he's on Branded, and to see the growth that he had, granted he went X4, but to see his growth, this was his first big tournament event. He was feeling good. He was playing super well. He was learning. He was like experiencing new techs. He wasn't giving up. It was just one of those, like, he was really fighting through and like doing everything he could. He didn't want, like, even at one point he was at round 4, he was X4, so he hadn't won yet, but he's like, I'm having a great time. I'm learning so much. I'm really enjoying it. And for someone who's brand new to the game, like, I remember my first regional, I was X7. For him, he was like, I'm really having fun. I'm really doing this. And he was spending a lot more time focusing on what the right play was versus what the familiar play was, which is a really big change from somebody who was so reliant on floodgates a little while ago.
Yeah, he did a nice job. He's got like I think we're a pretty accomplished play group in that we've been playing long enough that we all really are very familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh! So I think he's benefited from that, and I think that it showed in the way he played. He how do I say, he doesn't really struggle anymore with knowing the like technicalities of the game. Now it's more like he has to learn like to stop to read cards and to like sort of anticipate like what interruption will be best when. And I know that sounds kind of stupid, right? Like, reading a card is really important, but that's kind of like, for some reason with Yu-Gi-Oh, that's like a hurdle that almost all players have to overcome because there's just so many cards. So it's kind of like, instead of, unless you play like, you know, almost daily, you're not going to memorize what every card does. So you just have to kind of get to a point where you sit, you read a card, and then you get familiar with, okay, cards tend to do this if this happens, right? Like, a rule of thumb is like, the field spell that searches isn't usually the thing that you ash, right? Like, that's not usually what you stop. And you only learn that by playing enough Yu-Gi-Oh! And ashing the field spell, and then your opponent goes, cool, anyway, right? I'm going to do the whole thing anyway.
Yeah, when you ash Water Enchantress and they have right in hand.
Yeah, or like the classic ashing a danger, and then your opponent goes, anyway, activate.
Danger again.
You know,
so activate the same danger.
Right?
Yeah.
So like and an example of this is like previously Kevin would ash Unicorn, for example, to get the spell. And then I would almost always go, cool, Theosis effect, and then he'd be like, "Fuck, I should have asked Theosis," and I'm like, 100%. Like what you so he got a lot better at those little technicalities, and I think that's kind of what differentiates a good player from a bad player, and that's nice to see. He was good.
I'll also note with him, he is the only person in our play group aside from Joseph who, well, he's the only player who consistently plays branded. Myself, George, Nick, even Joseph, not big branded players. So he had to learn the deck on his own essentially. Like we could tell him like
outside influences you mean.
Yeah,
okay.
like this is where we know to stop at branded. But we can't tell you the play line because none of us play it. So for him, it's that like actively seeking out how do I get better versus just doing the same things over and over. Like he's researching, checking the text, going to the Facebook groups and stuff. Like he's doing a lot of work. He reminds me a bit of who you're talking about with Daryl, where it's like in a little bit of time, I could see him being getting a lot better if he continues to play the way that he's playing. And he also picked up a very two extremely complicated decks to start with Dark World and Branded. Like
I want to personally shout out Kevin as well. I've met him for the first time, although I'm in a side chat and I've conversated with him for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but it's my first time meeting him. And meeting him in person, he's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot. So my theory kind of with beginning players is, because I talked about this very briefly in an old episode where we were talking about the concern that Konami had with retaining new players. Mm-hmm. And my theory was that in order for a player to be retained, they just have to love the game. Like, there's just so much going on in this game that in order for you to really get good at it, you have to immerse yourself in the game. Like, you have to literally deep dive and just take in as much as you can. So it can be very, very overwhelming for newer players to come in here and be like, okay, so not only is there a normal summon that I can do once per turn, but there's mad special summons. And all right, I can special summon from what's called an extra deck. And then these purple cards have to be set, but the green ones that have a lightning bolt have to be set too if they want to get played on my opponent's turn. But if I set them, I can't play them the turn I set them, even though they're still a green card. There's just so many things that you have to learn. And especially as a new player, picking up decks that are kind of like how we said, we're talking about with George, like where you're playing more stun decks and you're relying more heavily on floodgates. And personally, I think that floodgates are more of like a bridge to help newer players. It's a crutch that newer players can lean on to help bridge the gap between when a newer player or a less experienced player has to play a good player, in the aspect of they're playing things that tell the opponent no instead of playing things to be able to do things themselves, like to be able to accomplish what the point of a deck is, or whatever a combo leads to, instead of doing something like that, or not feeling confident in themselves, not knowing how to combo. Because I used to be a player like that. You just rely heavily on floodgates, rivalry, skill drain, anti-spell, and you just tell your opponent no because you have no idea of how to maneuver the waters of when you get interrupted, when you get stopped at a certain point. How do I get to the next step? It's very, very intimidating. So I can see why some people would fall really heavily to those floodgates. But I do commend and kudos to Kevin for picking up not only one but two decks right off the gate that are very, very intricate, having to know the priority effect, having to know with Dark Lords, having to know priority effects, and my mandatory Grapha has to happen. Then learning things like discard for cost, discard for effect, the effect if it gets discarded by an opponent's card or card effect, because those card text can be very, very complicated to new players. So very big shout out to Kevin for not only holding it down, and like you said, because I saw the way he was interacting with Brendan. Shout out to Brendan when we were playtesting on Friday the night before, because Brendan is one of our better Despia player. We only have a handful of them there, but they all kind of click together and they all are on very similar deck lists because they all talk game plan and strategy, deck lists and stuff like that. So it's good for, like you said, Kevin, to learn these things by himself and apply them towards your group, so that way if any of you guys are ever interested in Despia or something like that, or have a question on where do I hit here, oh, this new tech came out, how do I go about it, he's now going to be the one that's going to be able to tell you those techs, be able to tell you where to hit now. And the better a player he gets, the better player you guys get by default. So kudos to him. Also, I'll shout out Kevin because I've never ever seen anyone lose to Exodia in my life, and I got to
he did get Exodia'd.
I got to watch this nigga get Exodia. So, and I think the the highlight of my weekend is, for those who don't know, Kevin was playing right next to me in one of the rounds, and apparently he's playing this Exodia player, and I'm playing my match, and I'm not really focusing too much on him. And all of a sudden, in the middle of my match, I get a tap on the shoulder, and it's Kevin, and he leans over into me, and he goes, "Hey, X, so can I use this card in my hand to stop what he's doing right now?" And he's pointing at Mercurier. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, let me look at his board. And I look at his board, and his opponent has the head of Exodia, the left and right arm of Exodia, and the left and right legs of Exodia all out on his field right now. And I'm like, oh, wait, yo, did this nigga just play Exodia on you? And the guy very happily said, I did.
Yep.
And so I looked over at Kevin. I said, yeah, nigga, that's not doing shit. You gotta scoop your cards right now.
Yeah, like
that is not an activated effect. Yeah, you are done, nigga.
You've already lost. Yeah, you already lost it.
You've lost, but the second you tapped me on the shoulder, it was already done, dog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But kudos to Kevin for we, and like, of course, been playing for 6 months. We've never thought to think of Exodia to tell him about. But kudos to him for being like, no, wait, I know it's a monster. Can I use this monster effect to stop? Can I use this monster negate to stop it? Like, at least he's thinking like...
I understood his mentality, but at the same point, I was like, yeah, dog, that's definitely not how this shit works. You just lost, my guy. Sorry.
Yeah.
It'll probably never happen to him again. Yeah. Honestly.
No, next time it's Destiny board.
Hopefully. That'd be really funny. I don't think in all my time playing Yu-Gi-Oh, I've never been Exodia'd by anybody. Except, I can't remember if George is Exodia'd me.
George Exodia'd on all of us at least once. Because Mystic Mine was going to happen
that's
anyway.
that shit, dog. See, that's that shit. And even the Crooked Cook Exodia shit. Like, come on, dog. Why are we doing this? But speaking of rogue shit like Exodia, just before we close out the regional tab, so like, what were the decks that you guys were expecting to see, and then what were the decks that you actually played against, and how well did you guys think you did compared to how well you thought you were going to do the Friday before?
So I think I expected, and I was talking with a couple people, including y'all, about this. I was very expecting to see a wide variety of decks because we're in this weird time in Yu-Gi-Oh where the World Championship just ended, the Megatins just got released. Around this time is also when we're getting a new ban list at some point in the next couple weeks, and the top decks have been running around for a bit, meaning Kashtira, Branded, and Pirelli. So I was expecting to see more people trying out new stuff in this kind of little sort of in-between space. So and for me at least, I played against 6 different decks. But with the exception of Brandon, I played against decks that I expected to play against. So I was a little surprised. I was not totally surprised to see what I saw. I think that I was playing Pirelli, so I felt very confident with Pirelli, but I think part of the benefit and not benefit of our sort of play group is we tend to play, like, we were all preparing for this regional over the past couple weeks, so all of us honed in on one deck to play against. So I got a lot of practice against Kashtira, I got a lot of practice against Mathmech, I got a lot of practice against Branded. But I didn't have as much practice against one of the other things that I played against, like Unchained. Like, I didn't have. I've only played against that deck once, and not at a regional, and not with any of the new stuff. So that deck, I knew what the cards did, but to see a player actually know what they're doing was easy to follow what they were doing. But I just didn't like. It was hard to anticipate the next move because of the places that I interrupted him. Because I tend to interrupt people at weird places. He was still able to, like, go through it, and I think I wasn't expecting the level of competency with Rogue that I saw. Like, people were really good with their Rogue decks.
Yeah, and not only were they doing good, they were, like, really excelling, and, like, I was seeing Rogue at, like, tables, like, 5, 6, 7. Like, the top 10 tables had Rogue at it. Like, it was insane.
Like, all day.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. By round 6, round 7, round 8, I'm being told that, oh yeah, I just played against Dino Morphia. I just played against what was it, like Vanadium. Like, bro, it was like insane the amount of decks that were really out there putting in the reps.
I'm gonna have to agree with Mel here. I kind of went in expecting to see, like, the mirror match with Kashtira. I was ready for Pirelli and I was ready for Branded. I didn't play any of those. I played Infernoble, which was interesting because it's very different than it was back in the day. So I learned a lot from that matchup. I played Sword Soul, and the only reason that was notable was because I've never seen a Sword Soul player play anti-spell, so that was different.
I have. It's like I said, floodgates, dog.
Yeah, so I mean, I mean, but I'm very familiar with that matchup because it's a little older. And then the rest was like stuff that I could see being there, but I didn't think. Like I played a Sprite Runic player, but it looked like they were on more like normally that's like 50-50 with a lot of Runic stuff, but it was like he was like almost all Sprite with the occasional Runic splash, which I thought was weird. I played against a Dynamorphia player that I defeated. I didn't really expect to play against that at all. And then I played against a Makonko player, which again I was like, okay, Makonko, sure. So it was interesting. I felt like I really feel like thinking back, I went 2-4. I don't think I misplayed at all. Like I can't think of any games where I was like, yeah, I really clearly misplayed. Because I don't really think I did. I went 2-1 in most of my games, whether I won or I lost. I think I 2-0'd the Dynamorphia player, but like I feel like good about how I played. A lot of the time I lost, and I feel like I could attribute it to having brought Kashtira. Most people brought like 9 to 12 outs for it, basically, more or less. So you know, I feel like it was okay. I feel like I feel good about how I played. I feel like it went pretty well. But yeah, it's a very there's a lot of diversity. You know, for all the complaining about how much gatekeeping Kashtira is doing, it doesn't really seem like it is. So,
So did the room seem balanced to you guys, or did it seem like there was definitely a far and away best deck in the room?
I'm still of the opinion. I think Kashtira is still far and away the best deck, but I think
Far and away for sure.
Yeah, mainly because if you like, we've talked about like Nick and I have argued about this and talked about this, but like sometimes with Kashtira, if you don't draw the out, you're not playing, and like it's a Rise Heart, and then I had played against a couple stuff that was like they had some new techs in, and I think while Kashtira is far and away the best, any deck that has, aside from Tier Element, that has a huge target on his back is not going to have a great day all the time, and it's really going to be more, I would say, more luck and skill based than traditional decks would have. Like Pirelli happens to lose to all of the same stuff that Kashtira does, but if Kashtira wasn't around, Pirelli would be the top deck, and it would be. It's hard to. There are some slightly different things that Pirelli loses to that were people citing 10 or 11 cards for Pirelli. Yeah, Pirelli would not have it might still be taking a big percentage of the top card, but it's going to be a tough road.
They still use the same power spells. I understand for sure.
Yeah. And it's true what you said about Kashtira in terms of how the games go. I mean, in my experience with Kashtira, the games are either you or your. It's like there's two routes that happen with Kashtira. You either send your opponent into the sun and they can't do anything, or they absolutely destroy your board with one of the outs that they draw and you can't recover at all. Or more rarely, you have like a grind game with Kashtira where they like maybe they out your Arise Heart, but they can't get rid of everything. So then the next turn, because you have Birth, maybe you like start the whole combo again. And those grind games are more fun, but they're a little rare. My games at the regional, and this is exactly what I expected, so I wasn't surprised at all. My games at the regional were all either me or my opponent absolutely toppling each other.
Blowouts?
Like I had no grind games with Kashtira. It was either my opponent played one card and then I made them scoop, or I set up my whole Kashtira board and then they were like, "Cool, Book of Eclipse," and I was like, "Yep, don't have Lance, so I guess I lose." And that's just the nature of Kashtira. So I get why Kashtira is a very polarizing deck for that reason, because it's not fun to either sit through a combo and lose completely, like irrevocably. It's not fun to experience that, and then it's not fun to not really play with your opponent because you just beat them so badly that they can't do anything. So I get why it's very polarizing, to be honest with you. I felt like just from maybe not the regional, I didn't play against Pirelli, but I felt like within the group when we were playing at your house, X, I felt, frankly, and maybe I'm a little biased, but I felt like Pirelli was substantially more oppressive than Kashtira. And the reason I say that is not because of any of their cards.
That's just because Jake had 9 cards in his hand against you.
That's true. I mean, that's the thing. When you're, but this is exactly it, though. Like, I didn't feel like any of Pirelli's cards were like, "Oh, it's so crazy, I can't believe it." With the exception of Sleepy Draw 6, I think that is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a little bonkers.
And I mean, yeah, of course, if your opponent draws 6, of course they're gonna out your board. They drew 6, right? Like they have to have drawn an answer, you know. So I feel like that's a little a little frustrating. I don't know if other people find that a little frustrating about Pirelli, but I certainly do. The draw power it's too much.
I think
frankly.
the one part about that one interaction that I don't like, that I would quote unquote complain about, because I don't really complain about a lot, would be the fact that I have to, as a cash player, let you get those draws, because my out to Pirelli, obviously it's Forbidden Lance, but I can't Forbidden Lance in the draw phase because the other outs for Pirelli are like Book of Moon and Book of Eclipses. So if I force the draw phase Book of Eclipse, they're just going to Pirelli leap into the Noir, which is now it's unaffected. Doesn't matter. They're going to draw 3 anyway. Or I hit Book of Moon, they hit the leap, and I chalice it so they can't leap. But then now they get the draws anyway. So like my point was, you really cannot stop them from drawing. They are gonna draw like that. I have to get it through my head sometimes that, all right, this nigga's gonna draw regardless of what I do. So let him get whatever minuscule amount of draws, because he's only gonna do it once if I use this. He's only gonna do it once if I use this lance right. So
and then
it's just like my little ick with the deck.
Yeah, and then I find a lot of the time that even if you do out the whole Pirelli board because you have the answer to Noir or something, or you like Lance when they leap, then they have 7 cards in hand, so they're just gonna kill you on the crackback if you don't kill them, and that's like fine. You know, decks are allowed to be good. Obviously, it's just draw 1 or draw 2 feels less unfair than draw 6.
Yeah,
like it's just straight up.
It's a Pirelli player. It's like, if you can get that,
they do have to commit to that, though. I'll give them that. It is a commitment to the draw 6, because then they have to use the street to put that underneath there. You know
a lot of things have to go right. A lot of things
exactly.
Have to go
so
right.
It is a commitment, but the ability to do it and at what rate is what I guess is the real annoying part. Like them niggas is always drawing cards in the standby.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we probably won't talk about ban list, but I think that card is going to 1.
Yeah.
Fairly it's either that or they're going to put my friend to 1. I'm preferring Sleepy Memory, but if they do put Sleepy to 1, I would very much like Delicious to 2 or 3, because the deck can't play without its quick plays, and that's effectively,
or at least give you a new quick play. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's the way I look at it. Give it something lighter.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, and I feel like this might be not a very popular opinion, but I don't know. I feel like something that I really don't like about Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually is I don't like when decks do a bunch of shit on the draw phase. This is maybe my Yugi boomer talking here.
Yep.
That annoys the shit out of me. I think it really should be, you just fucking draw, and then you can do everything in the standby phase. But like, it just irritates me. I feel like I think it's like, oh, in the draw phase, do all this shit. I'm like, what the fuck? We're in the draw phase.
Hey, niggas gotta play around draw, dog.
That's right.
Yeah, but like, I think they should errata draw so that you can't fucking do that. I think that's stupid as fuck. To be quite honest with you, I think it's like, I'm gonna play around droll because
errata draw so you can't do it in the draw phase?
I think it's stupid that
no,
they're
that
like,
it has to be main phase.
No, I think they should errata draw so that you can do it anytime, because I think it's really stupid that it's like, I'm gonna do all this in the draw phase so that I can play around droll because they printed droll a while ago. I think that's dumb as fuck. That's my radical opinion.
That is a radical opinion.
Yeah, no one's with you on that.
That's okay.
I think it's a reflection of the intricacies of Yu-Gi-Oh! That people have to think about and do those kinds of things to dodge those hand traps.
I agree with that.
It's the same reason that people sometimes hold shifter past turn, and that like they pass their turn, Castera players, then you shift to your opponent when they're going second, and then its shifter is live on your turn, so you can dodge things like droll because it's still live.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
if you know damn well you're not doing shit on your turn, you can hold it. Yeah.
I used to shifter in the draw. I used to drop shifter in the standby phase. Now I just fucking do it in the draw phase. Whatever.
Yeah, fuck you. You can't do it in the draw phase.
I shotgun that shit. Like Yu Hakusho, shotgun.
No, I mean, like, listen, that's the way it is, you know.
But going into one of our last topics, I don't want to take up too much of your guys' times, but I do want to pick your brains on this because I'm very, very eager to see how you guys view this. But New York City invaded Syracuse at a very particular time in the last final week of the Cuse Summer League. So for those who don't know what it is, the Summer League is when a locals throws a more like a league-esque. So it's like the same OTS that you normally go to, but you get points for entering, you get points for going undefeated in Swiss, you get points for reaching top cut, and then you get points for winning tournaments. And at the end of, I think, like 2 months, maybe it's 8 weeks or something like that, Konami will send product into the store, and it gets divvied up amongst the winners of top 8 for the season. So it gets very, very, very competitive, very sweaty, very try hard, very statistical. It gets very, very analytical, very anal. Everyone's on edge. It's like the best and worst time in Syracuse, like Yu-Gi-Oh. And you guys came at a time where it was the last week, so we were trying to get all of our points and like make sure we solidified our standings, because a lot of things were still in the air, as you guys were hearing in the flutter of the crowds.
Sure.
So what were your guys' thoughts on the Syracuse community as a whole, and then on how the gameplay, not like the people as a whole, and then how you thought the players were overall when you played against them from Syracuse?
So I think the concept of Summer League is really cool. I think that the idea that in addition to playing like to get OTS packs, you're also playing for like points in a league, and anybody can go at any point is a cool concept. And it was really interesting to come in at the end of it and see like what has clearly been a very strong community come together and say like these people, like figuring out the math of like if this person loses and this person wins out, they can take over the top spot, or this person can get top 8 if they win out today. It's just like this. It was a cool thing to see. Nick, I don't know if you had any feelings about the Summer League concept before we talk about people.
I like it a lot. I kind of wish we had something like that. Our locals is substantially more casual than that. It's substantially more casual in every way, which is fine. But I do really like the idea of a league where you're competing for points. I think it's a nice motivating factor, and it's a cool idea. I like it a lot. I think it breeds competition and it makes people really want to push. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think in terms of players, I would say Syracuse players, the ones that we played against at your place, X, and then at also what I saw at Comic Zone, are more comparable to Gamer's Choice than to Squeaky's. Squeaky's, like Nick said, is an extremely casual local scene. You'll get maybe week to week we get an average of 6 to maybe 15 players, whereas you all were at 30. I mean, granted it was probably more because of the Summer League, but
31.
I can imagine 31. I imagine 5 of those were us, so more like 26.
Hey, that's true. That's true. That's true.
But I think it was really cool to see a really clear community-based local event, to see a tournament organizer that actually is invested versus someone who's just there to make a quick buck.
Very true.
And the player base is definitely closer to Gamer's Choice in terms of like skill level and what you're going to actually see. Like Swiggy's, we'll see maybe somebody pulls like Sword Soul, Blue Eyes, Vanadium, Exodia, and we're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's usually there's a lot of piles at Squiggy's.
Yeah. People like
a
really
lot of
thinking,
piles there.
And that's
guys
fine,
gotta try their cards out.
Yeah, like Joe will be like, oh, I went like I didn't lose a single match, and I'm like, what'd you play against, Joe? Did you play against fucking Dark Magician?
I played against
Silver Fang set. No, I'm just teasing Joe because I want him to hear this specifically, and then message me in the chat and be like, yo, Nick, what's good? No, Squiggy's is great. It's just a lot more casual. Yeah.
I think in terms of like the players. It's much closer to Gamer's Choice, and shout out, like Gamer's Choice averages like 40 to 50 people a night, but they are a Yu-Gi-Oh shop. That is their dedicated thing, and they are by far the most competitive in New York City. And just based solely on the population size of New York City, you're gonna get a large number of people coming out every day. But that's the difference between Gamer's Choice. They have a tournament every single day. Like that is their primary mode of business, whereas Comic Zone and even Millennium Games and Squiggy's, they are card shop second. They are like board game or comic places first.
Yeah.
They're Gamer's brick and mortar first.
Gamer's Choice is also, I will say, Gamer's Choice is, in my experience, less friendly. To be quite honest with you, it's just not as friendly.
Correct. Well, you have to compromise that for competitive atmosphere.
No, and that's fine. I'm just saying, like, I felt like the Syracuse locals was frankly extremely competitive, but everybody was very friendly, right? Yeah. Whereas Gamer's Choice, I've had some experiences at Gamer's Choice that are not the friendliest.
You haven't seen some of Syracuse's meltdowns, dogs.
No, I guess I haven't.
Q's players be having some downs. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And I don't gotta name no names now because y'all listening. Hey, y'all know who the fuck y'all is because the people have told you guys, but
Hey man, I've gotten
you
really
haven't
mad
seen
at
it.
Yugioh
But
too.
it's gotten some. We've had some weird moments at our locals.
I've gotten really mad at Yugioh too, but
Really, Nick, you've gotten mad? No, I would never believe it.
yeah, there's one time I wanted to
Nick's
rip
threatened to
Joseph.
quit. Nah,
I wanted to.
Couldn't be.
No, well, maybe, but there's one time I just wanted to like rip Joseph's head off, but
Yeah.
I don't even remember why. I think it had to do with. I don't even remember what deck he was playing. I guess it
I
wasn't
don't
that
remember
important.
either. You were very angry.
I was so
like, y'all
fucking
need
mad.
to if y'all need to get out of my apartment if you're gonna do something.
But I've gotten a lot better at chilling.
Yeah.
So Gamer's Choice is a little less friendly. I'll also say, I think that the good thing I liked about Syracuse was that even when I like lost, so I went 1-1 because then we had to bounce. And you know, every time like my opponent and I, we would like talk about stuff. It'd be like one of my opponents, he was like, "Hey, what do I do in this situation against Kashtira?" And I was like, "I would personally do this. I think this is what I would do." So it was cool. It was a really friendly atmosphere. I liked it a lot. So I want to give a shout out also just this whole weekend in general. I was really surprised both at the locals and at the event at the extent to which I saw Fluanderies. Wasn't expecting it really, to be honest with you. It's truthfully a pretty hard matchup for a Kashtira. Actually, I'm learning because I know Fluanderies inside and out. I played Fluanderies a lot, and I know exactly when to interrupt them. And it's tough. Kashtira has a little bit of a tough time because Flu doesn't give a shit about a lot of the interruptions that you set up. So that was cool, and I liked seeing that. I enjoy Fluanderies because now that Statue's gone, you have to actually think when you play that deck, and it's actually quite rewarding when you do well with it. It's pretty nice. So,
I went 2-0 at Comic Zone, and then we had to bounce. But it was cool to play. It was cool to play against the people. I feel bad for my first opponent. He bricked very heavily, but that's just sometimes happens. And
fuck him.
my opponent bricked 2 actually, which was interesting.
And then my second opponent. No disrespect to him, but I'm also reminded that like it is local, so you're probably not going to see the most competitive decks. He normal summoned Unizombie, I impermed, and he passed. And I'm like, all right, this is the locals I'm used to, and it's a good reminder that you're gonna see that.
Home.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, all right, happiness OTK. I felt really bad because he had never played Pirelli, and he was like, he said to me, he was like, oh, I'm probably not going to see this deck because you're going back to the city. And I was like, bro, there are 3 people here right now playing this deck. And he's like, oh shit, I have to learn what they do.
I mean, that's what happens. I mean, at Squiggy's, I don't go to Squiggy's too much, but at Squiggy's, I think our group, like, because it's like me, Joe, Mel, George, Kevin, Demetrius, and then our friend James. It's like 7 of us. We have a pretty big group of people. I would argue that at Squiggy's, we are probably the most competitive people there, and we don't even like. I don't even really consider myself like deeply competitive with Yu-Gi-Oh! I'd be like, I'm like semi-competitive. I'm definitely not a casual player, but I'm not like, I just don't have like the resources and the like external life things to go to like tournaments like very frequently. Like I have other shit I have to do. So like people are like, oh, how do you play? I'm like, like semi-competitively, definitely not casual, you know? So like keeping that in mind, Squiggy's is just a different experience. Also like the space at Squiggy's is very, very small. Very small.
Yeah.
Very tight.
Yeah. We do have a lot of very competitive players.
You have like a higher proportion for sure. Yeah.
I can walk into any Syracuse locals, look at the crowd, scan to see any faces I know, and tell you right off the bat from round 1 who's going to be in top 8.
Yeah, like because you're like, I know
it's
him.
almost
I know
like
he's
that.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah, like I know that like Eric Christensen is going to get top cut. I know anytime Ryan App's there, he's going to get top cut. I know anytime Brendan or Albert there, with the exception, unless Albert's trolling on some rogue deck, they're going to get top cut. You know what I'm saying? There's like the Jake is going to get top cut. There's a bunch of guys who I just know, like if they're in the room, if I have to go against them, or if I have to go against them, it's going to be a problem. Or if I face them in top cut, I'm at least catering my side deck for those players. Locals, we almost can't take it as very, very seriously when we do our competitive practicing for like regionals and shit, because everyone knows everyone's play style. So we have to like, our side decks are catered against certain players, not against certain decks, if that makes sense. That's why I said I was very proud of everyone for doing well, because usually at a local setting it's very catered to like those certain 40 people, whereas at a regional there's going to be well over 150, 200, maybe even somewhere upwards of like 300-400 depending on where you go, and like all those players are brand new to you. You may not have played against them before, you play against them very irregularly, so like you can't pick up on certain things. Like if you have if I play against Devon, if I set a back row, that even if it's just a bluff, this nigga's going to throw everything at the field just to get rid of this one back row, where I just know he just hates back row. Whereas
it's very true.
If I set a card and bluff, someone's might be like, all right, well, fuck that face down card. I'm going to full combo and make you force you to play it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I sometimes play that game as well. So there are a lot of competitive players in our scene. So I give them all kudos. But speaking of the competitive players, I do have these standings for the very final standings for the last day of the Syracuse Summer League. And they are thus follows. Your top 8 officially for the 2023 Syracuse Summer League are as follows. You have Ryan App in first place with 30 points. In second place, we have Brendan Agnant with 29 points. Right behind them, so close. In third place, we have Jake Curtis with 26 points. In fourth place, we have Albert Park with 25 points. Right there, once again, right behind there. In fifth place, we have Brad Stevens. He was leading Summer League for like 5 or 6 weeks. Like literally up until like the last few weeks, Brad was in first place. But he finished with 24 points. We have AJ in sixth place with 23 points. Austin, Queen of Despia, she finished 7th place with 21 points. Nice. And then in 8th place, you got your boy, the official one, the realest boy player X with 18 points. Nice. So that is the Syracuse official top 8. So congratulations to everyone who did well. I think if we were to do points outside of that, 9th place, the honorable mention would be Ryan Kimball. So shout outs to him. He's another player who kind of came in very, very early on, I would say within like the last 4 or 5 months, and then decided that he wanted to get really good with the decks and started picking up better decks instead of like the more casual fun ones, and said, all right, I'm going to get good. And he's putting in work, man. You got 9th place, so let's see what you can do next year, man. I can't wait to see what you do at one of these regionals.
Nice.
Before we close out though, I got one more question for you guys, and I'm just curious. So you guys drove up here Friday night, and you guys got up here, or sorry, Friday morning you got up here, and you guys played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh over the weekend. So I'm just curious to your thoughts. What do you guys think, or who do you guys think was your toughest opponent all weekend? Whether it be at the regional, whether it be playtesting at the crib, whether it be at the Syracuse locals, whatever game it was, who do you think your toughest opponent was all weekend?
That's a good question.
Yeah, take your time.
Mostly because he knows a lot about Pirelli because he plays it himself. So it was a tough matchup to like go against. I would say Jake was pretty tough because he's on Pirelli too. So like part of the advantage with Pirelli is that their cards do sometimes do many things that people don't know, or they're like, what does that one do again? But Jake knew exactly, like he knew the play lines that I would be going for. Like he was smart about putting his like when he didn't have a lot, he was putting his monsters in defense mode so that he knew that I couldn't get to happiness OTK. He knew a lot of, like, he taught me things about like how my friend doesn't target the things that it's trying to add back in the graveyard. It's just like you have to respond to it. I would say Jake was probably my tougher one. I feel like it would have been Ryan had he not bricked, but he hard bricked both games.
Yeah, Ryan's just ass.
Ass number 1 Syracuse Summer League player.
Yeah, he's just buns. No, Ryan's really good, but I just like to trash him.
Yeah, for sure.
I was gonna say Jake as well, actually, because he's just a very knowledgeable player and he knows exactly what Cashier does. So there wasn't really there wasn't a lot I could do. That's part of the problem, is that if you know Cashier really well, its plays are like extremely telegraphed. It's usually like Jake was at the point with Cashier where he was like, I know exactly what you're gonna do based on the very first card you play, and then it kind of just boiled down to, well, does he have the out? But of course, right? If you know that you're in a format where Cashier is really strong, you probably do have the out. So the only benefit of that was I learned a lot about playing against Pirelli from him. He's pretty good at teaching. He'd be like, oh, you should have done this or this maybe, and it could have helped. I didn't get 2-0'd by him, so that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always good. But yeah, he was very tough. And I guess follow up would be the first guy I played at the regional, the Infernoble player. He did I just didn't open any hand traps, and he did full combo, and I played like my play was planet to search, and he was like Ash, and I was like, all right, game 2. So that was fun. I don't know if I'm gonna say that's a strong player, but he certainly made one of the combos of all time. So that was the thing.
Yeah, I was about to say I played it also an Infernoble player. It was actually Winner Kills, and he played through like it was
Shout out to Winter
interesting
Kills
then.
because
Yeah, Winner
he's
Kills.
been on the podcast before, and he's also
Yes,
one
he
of the
has.
Buffalo powerhouses out there. So definitely big shout outs to him.
He gave you a shout out when I was playing against him because I talked to him about it, and he was like, oh yeah, I loved being on that episode. Xavier's a dope dude. But he was tough in that he didn't know he knew he just drew one extra out, but he knew when to play like the exact negates. Like he had, I think, a spell trap negate, and he ultimately had 3 monster negates, but he had one omni negate, and he knew exactly when to use the omni negate, which I think is a mark of a really strong player. Is like, don't just burn your omni negate as soon as you can. Like, use your other negates first so that you can save it. So he had 2 imperm set, and if he didn't have the second one, I might have been able to break his board, but he was also a very tough match.
Yeah, for sure.
But all that doesn't matter because Xavier beat Jake. So Xavier was really the tough one.
I 2-0'd Jake, and then I beat Jake 2-1. Well, I beat Jake 2-1 in Swiss, and then I 2-0'd his bum ass in Top Cut. I played him in the last round of Swiss. Jake was wondering if he was even going to bubble or not, and then they said his name, and then they immediately followed it with my name. I'm like, damn, I got to run it right back with you. We didn't even have to get up. We just we brought our backpacks back up and just reset everything back up. I sent his ass home right afterwards. But no, but Jake is a great person. It was really funny while I was listening to you guys speak. I was actually thinking in my head that the OGs of the Syracuse group, like people like maybe Eric Christensen, Dan Vrabel, guys like that, who've been playing in the Syracuse community for like the longest amount of time, like they're really, really shocked to see when we say things like Jake won locals or Jake split.
That's what I've heard too.
They were like, yo, how are you letting this bum like win? But like, I've only known Jake, and I guess I'll give him his flowers because I would never say this shit to his face, but I guess I can speak about him behind his back. But you know, ever since I've known him, he's always been a very, very skillful player, very, very knowledgeable on the decks that he's played. Even if he used to play shit decks, don't get me wrong, this motherfucker used to play Magical Musketeers and fucking Trap Tricks, all these other like
shit.
weird opaque ass fucking decks. You know what I'm saying? So like, but he would still do like semi decent with them. He just would never do well. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what it was with him, but he a switch hit. Remember that switch I was telling you about, where it's like, all right, I'm tired of losing. Let's play. This motherfucker's switch hit, and as soon as it hit, this motherfucker didn't look back. This Jake got really, really good, really, really fast, to the point where it's shocking to older players when I say that Jake is third place at fucking the Syracuse Summer League. That Jake got 4 invites last year, and basically almost won a PS4, but they just called it early or some shit like that. And then because he had to play package Shuping and all them, but a great player. And like as you also said, he's a very good teacher because he's learned so much and he started from the bottom. I feel like when you start from the bottom, you get to really grind those nitty gritty parts and like those intricacies. Like someone probably did try to target some shit in his graveyard, and he learned, that shit doesn't target, and now he's able to tell you like, yo, don't let that shit happen, which improves you as a player. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So I'll give him his flowers. He definitely is a phenomenal player, and most people will argue in all the Syracuse discussions and shit that Jake's trash and whatever like that, and like even though X 2-0'd him, he's buns and whatever, but although I do agree with him, he is trash, and I do shit on him. He is a phenomenal player, and when we go regionally, I do take his word into account. Like even to the point where Jake is earned my respect to when we went to nationals. Me and Jake, who's probably one of the other better Kashtira players in the area, and for someone who wasn't even really on the deck for like the last couple months. We planned out the deck and played almost mirror. I think we had a 3-card difference. Almost mirror decks for nationals because I valued his opinion so much that I wanted to and build a deck with him, and he was knowledgeable enough to be able to do that. So kudos to Jake. I'll shout that motherfucker out. You get one kudos, and then the rest is your ass.
The other highlight of the weekend, I think, in addition to all that happened and Kevin getting exodiated, was Joseph's call out of the Syracuse community and the force of whatever deity you believe in that decided, you know what, at the summer league on Sunday, just for and to give
he's gonna
context,
put his money where his mouth is.
Yep, Joseph he put on the Syracuse Facebook group. He's like, New York City's coming up. We're here. We're gonna, dominate everybody. Blah blah blah. Because Joseph's a shit talker. And then Eric Christensen's like, you want to put your money where your mouth is?
Eric Christensen, who is the second, like the runner up, the second best NA player, on record.
Dude.
He goes, how about we do a money match? And he fucking Joseph's like, nah, I don't think I don't think I can do it because everybody in the group's like, no, you're gonna lose your money. You might as well just
I think what'd you say, X? You were like your X, you were like think of it like paying $500 to play. Like you're gonna lose.
You're gonna lose.
Yeah, exactly.
And some divine intervention decides, you know what? First round of locals on Sunday, Joseph and Eric are playing each other.
Yeah.
I don't know
guess
how.
What happened? Go ahead and take a wild guess.
Wild guess. Eric wins.
Oh yeah.
Which
shot in the dark, Eric wins.
And Eric it was really, I didn't get a chance to speak to him, but he is from what I saw, he's a very chill, cool dude. I would not have expected a top Yu-Gi-Oh player to be as chill as he is.
He was super nice. I spoke to him a little bit too. He was very nice, very approachable.
I would say at the end of the day, Eric's probably, because I've got a very, very different view than Eric, as well as all of the people down in Florida have a very, very different view of Eric than most of the people around here, because you guys think he's so chill. There's a time where Eric was really grinding it down, and because I'm under the belief to be very, very good at this game, you almost sort of kind of have to have an ego attached to it, because that's the only thing that drives you to get better, is like not wanting to hurt your pride or your ego. Like, even take me for example, I talk a lot of shit, so when I'm winning, I talk shit. And the only way to get me to stop talking shit is to either beat me, you know what I'm saying, or start winning. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Be just as good. You know what I'm saying? I can't argue with someone who's just as good. You know what I'm saying? So if you want me to stop, you gotta best me. And that's exactly what Eric's mentality is. When he was in Florida, that's how he got good. That's how he was topping YCSs. That's how he went to Nats. That's how he got runner up. It's because he was a Florida player, and he's very, very cocky on the low, and it's not, he's very humble about it. He's not like an arrogant person, but he's very cocky, egotistical ego wise when we're like playing, and it's kind of good because that means we can shit talk with him. So he'll play me, win, and then say, yeah, get that ugly ass deck out of my face or some shit like that, and then I'll beat him. I'm like, damn, so this is what that Asian guy felt when he beat you. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever. We'll just go back and forth because we're just like that. But it's only because we're bettering each other. If I ever sat down, for example, I played Eric at locals the same day you guys did, and one of the games he had said he misplayed, and I had said in what aspect. And most times he would never explain himself. He'd just be like, I could have done some shit and I didn't. But he just knows the vibe with me. I'm always trying to learn, and he's was trying to explain because we had plenty of time. And he says, well, when I had this, I prioritized getting rid of your Shangri-La to get my zones back. Well, what I should have done was prioritize setting all the cards so you couldn't, get any more zones, and then play this card in your main phase to get rid of, in your standby phase to get rid of it. Yeah. So that way you would have committed to the board, but then I could deal with both the monsters at once. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. He was just really, really going into detail with it. So he's kind of like that, on that level with me. So although we talk shit to each other, it's all about pushing each other to the next limits, getting the other one to shut up. So now I could talk all that shit until Thursday, and then when I meet him Thursday, if I lose, then he gets to talk shit until the next locals, and then so on and so forth. So
of course, yeah,
that's dope.
Before we start getting wrapped up and anything like that, did you guys have any other shout outs for the weekend or any other highlights that you guys wanted to talk about before we close out?
You all should tell Nick that he should come to the Philadelphia regional, Pennsylvania regional.
Albert's gonna go, right?
Kevin wants to go.
Albert's grinding for world's points.
I want to get an invite.
I think I have to celebrate my sister's birthday.
Nah, she'll have another one next year.
Yeah, well,
Yo, wild.
Hopefully.
Kevin, we keep bringing him up, but Kevin's like, hey, when we play tomorrow, can you all bring different decks so I can practice against different stuff? Because I want to go to more regionals and I want to go to bigger events. And I'm just like, he's got the Mamba mentality. He's got the grind mentality. So we'll be, if you are at Philadelphia regionals next on September 9th, give us. We'll be, at least a couple of us might be there. But that's the next big tournament. I'm grinding for that invite too. I need to get that. I want to get that deck box as well.
Yeah, I get my own invite this year. I had two last season, so I need to get my own for the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then just shout out our podcast, Heart of the Podcast. It's available on all the streaming platforms and whatnot.
Yeah, go listen.
And go take a listen. We shit talk a lot too. We've had X on there. We'll have him back on there. Probably in a little bit, potentially after the next regional. Are you going to that regional,
for
Xavier?
An R-rated episode.
Hell yeah.
I think my only shout out that hasn't been said already is Block Dragon to 3.
Oh my god, shut up.
All right.
I'll never stop.
All right, pipe down, guy.
I'll never stop.
All right, hold on. Where's my soundboard?
Unlock the block.
Yeah,
unlock the block.
That's a clown take for sure.
Unlock the block.
All right, so as we try
Unlock
to
the
cut
block.
over Nick, so that way none of his ignorance gets into any of your guys' ears, be sure to go down below in the description box below and click that Linktree link. Follow all of our social sites, especially the Twitter and the TikTok and the Instagram, where we're giving away things the next rounded up fucking interval. So stop making me say these fucking things. Just go down there, click it, so I can start giving things to you guys. As simple as that. Also, shout outs to our sponsor, Unplugged Gaming in Manlius, New York. Be sure to check out the Discord server in the description box below. A little birdie told me, I'm not quite sure how confirm. I'm going to go confirm it next week, but a little birdie told me that when the Megatins come in, that Joe is going to make sure that the semi-limited crew gets a box to be able to give away to the supporters. You know how it goes. They be giving back to you guys because they be loving when we come through. I'll probably set up another event sometime in September for you guys. We'll do something really big. And then obviously we'll do another giveaway through the Unplugged Gaming sponsorship for the tin for one of you guys to enjoy yourselves and go crazy on a tin. Go play yourself a promo, maybe that secret rare you always wanted. So we'll figure it out. We'll hash it up between Joe, but we'll make sure we get it done for you guys. But I can't do it without your support. So be sure to go down to that description box, join their Discord, the Unplugged Gaming Discord, and then also join our Discord so that way I can show them that we are as committed to you as you guys are to us. That is
Your
what
life
I meant to say.
life points are fading so fast.
My life points are super done. The last thing we're gonna say is make sure to check out Brad's stream on Twitch. Click that Linktree link. Click on Brad's Twitch. He is known as Mr. Perfect, and he will be Twitch streaming on Saturdays at 11 p.m. So go down there and check him out. He's going to be doing deck profiles, hanging out with the crew. I'm in there talking shit and fucking with them every once in a while. Well, if you're in there and you do something interesting or we interact or something like that happens, we will be sure to put it on the podcast. So be sure to go check it out so that way we have something to interact with you guys with and give back to you guys on another platform with another stream, with another streamer, with all these other things. You know what I'm saying? So,
absolutely.
Anything else before our final thoughts?
Semi Limited has a YouTube now. Make sure you go subscribe to them.
Yeah, I just subscribed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've been putting. I just actually put up Albert's second place regional topping full underease deck profile. Be sure to go check that shit out on YouTube. He's right. Go subscribe, comment. I'll probably be doing a giveaway on there soon. Yeah, you know exactly. Probably when we reach 50 followers on there, I'll probably do another giveaway. And then I'll be putting the shorts up there. The next one's going to be with the DB Grinder. So that way you guys can see what he was on and what his ban list thoughts are. So that way we can get popping on these shits. So
soon. Yeah, ban list soon.
You came in
all right, guys.
week,
we are officially out of life points. I'm fucking high. This is ridiculous. I'm stuttering here, working over my words. So we're going to close this shit out. Thank you so much to both of you guys for coming on here. Mel, for once again blessing us with that outstanding melodic voice of yours, and for Nick for breaking the record of coming on for the first time. And I now officially have collected all 5 Infinity Stones. I've had all you guys on here, and I can't wait to be on part of you guys' shit. So without any further ado, be sure to check out all that shit I listed down below. I am Player X, and we have been the Semi Limited Podcast. Good night.